Namaskar and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sattology Debunking Mythology. I really want to thank all our supporters and tremendous love and appreciation that you're giving us. And because of your help, we are growing. And it is our task to debunk mythology. The word mythology is a word made using myth is a Sanskrit dhatu or the root word meaning a lie, fake, or an imagination. And logos is a Latin word for study or science. So when you say mythology means the study or science of myth. I coined a new term, which is a true antonym. So the true antonym of myth, which means I just told you, is sat, which means a truth or a fact. And I combined with logos and made Sattology. So Sattology is a true antonym of mythology. At this channel, we try to bring out the facts. We are not professional interviewers, but we are trying to do our bit of it, where we try to record. And we always say Ramayana, Mahabharata, and all the ancient history of India, including the medieval history, from the Indian historian's perspective, is Sattology. Rest everything is mythology or propaganda. So today we have a very special guest, the Princess of Travancore, the 12th princess in line of Travancore, and also wife of my elder brother, I call him, and he calls me younger brother. He's kind enough, and a very prominent editor of Indian media in Indian media. And also, this person who is coming on the talk has given many talks. You loved her singing, and you loved the way she expressed herself on Adi Sankaracharya show. That was one of the most famous of hers at all times. And today we have her talking about a very ancient place in India, in the city of Varanasi, which is the oldest living city on the planet today by any standards, by Western standards, by Indian historians. And it was the city made by Shiva himself. So without delay, let us welcome Smt Lakshmi Bayi Nalapat. Welcome, Lakshmi ji.
Namaste, Aditya.
Namaste.
Thank you for calling me again.
And so when we talk about Kashi Vishwanath, what comes to your mind?
Shiva. I mean, it's just you think of Kashi. It's Shiva sort of bursts out of you, like a Rudra, like he came, like he's supposed to have come out of Brahma's brow. One of the stories of Shiva in Shiva Purana. Let's now take a look at Shiva. Okay, what Shiva is, who Shiva is. Shiva, the simple meaning of Shiva is he who always gives you Mangala or auspiciousness. And then you have Shankara, Shamkaroti, Iti Shankara, you have Ashutosh, you have so many, words of Shiva. He is known as Umapate, which is husband of Uma. And in Kashi, he is known as Vishwanatha. There is a certain conception among a lot of people that if you look at the Hindu or the Sanatana trinity of Srishti, Sthiti, and Layam, which is creation, maintenance, and dissolution. Creation is by Brahma, maintenance is by Vishnu, and dissolution is by Shiva. There is a misconception that it is Vishnu who is Sattvic, because most of Vishnu's, you see him always beautifully clad, with jewels. He's very happy. He's blessing the world all the time. But please remember one thing, that after the dissolution of the world happens, which is in Shiva's department, so to speak, there is nothing, there is peace. There is nothing, there's absolute. It is only when there is one creation and then there is a second creation that a possibility of conflict arises. That state where there is no conflict, where everything is as it should be, is called Sattvic. And it is actually Shiva who is Sattvic. Vishnu, by virtue of the fact that he has to do certain things to preserve the world, is, he has to indulge in things which are rajasic, which are not bad. They're not tamasic. Tamasic is, it's bad, okay. But rajasic is a combination of what is pure and perfect and what is practical. And Vishnu is rajasic, and well, you could say that creation, when you look at what creation stands for now, especially, it is not exactly, pure, good, or whatever it is. Having said that, let us look at the old name of Kashi. In Amarakosha, it is written Kashyate iti Kashi, which means that which shines is Kashi. And the other name for Kashi is Varanasi. Varanasi actually denotes or stands for that space between Varan Ghat and Asi Ghat. These are two of the most prominent ghats of Kashi. Now, if you take it in a philosophical yogic level, if you look at Kundalini, Varan is the Ida and Asi is the Pingala. Now, these are the two nadis which are there, the Ida and the Pingala in every human body. In fact, one of the things which they say is, which it is an old grandmother's tale, that before you go to bed, you have to wash your feet. Okay. And the reason, of course, the first most practical reason is that you don't carry dust into your bed space, okay, and your sleeping space. The second thing is, if you wash your feet thoroughly, including the back of the heels, it cools down your Ida Nadi and your Pingala Nadi. And this is supposed to be excellent for health. When you cool that down, what they say is that the proclivity to especially have strokes is lessened. Some people say that your proclivity to heart attacks is also lessened, but the stroke is something which Ayurveda subscribes to. Now, the Ida Nadi and the Pingala Nadi, these are the two nadis, okay? And Varanasi is Varan, Ida Nadi, Pingala Nadi, Asi. In between this, or rising like the Kundalini, is the Shiva Tattva. So Shiva is actually that which is shining between these two. And in Kashi, he is called Vishwanatha. The root of the word Vishwa, okay, is one of the roots. I mean, one of the meanings of the word is to educate. The other meaning is to spread. Kashi was known as the first city in the world. It was also known as the first university in the world. And Kashi University was a place where there were departments of education on almost every subject on earth. And there were teachers who came from the world, throughout the world. They came and they settled, experts on their respective subjects, settled down in Kashi. And the students who were interested in knowing more about their individual interests, they came to Kashi. So Vishwanatha, Shiva in Kashi is Vishwanatha, is also the Lord of learning. Okay. And Kashi has been glowing like a jewel. Despite Kashi has gone through a lot of problems, historical problems, whatever it is, but Kashi is still a place of such ecstasy. I know I'm sounding maudlin, but there is something about Kashi where the first time I visited Kashi was with the ashes of my mother's sister's husband. It was a very somber occasion, and we had done Visarjan, we had put the ashes in the Ganges, and then we were having a bath. And this literally happened. It's going to sound awful, okay, when I say it, and probably when you hear it. We were having a bath in one ghat. Next to it, there were buffaloes who were having a bath. Next to it, there were dogs who were having a bath. And upstream was, Manikarnika, where corpses are half burned, three-fourth burnt, and they're pushed into the water. Now, if you say this, it sounds awful. But then at that point, and whenever I've gone to Kashi, it is filthy. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of there's a lot of disturbance in Kashi. But in spite of all that, there is deep peace which you cannot. Either you fall in love with Kashi or you hate it. You could say that Kashi is a microcosm of India. Either you love it or you hate it, because we are impossible at one level, we are wonderful at one level. Okay.
In last Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, which was organized there, and I went there, and I fell in love with that city. I can tell you for honestly. And what Narendra Modi is the constituency of Prime Minister Modi, and what they have done in recovering the old city near the ghats is just phenomenal. No words can describe it. I even saw the shivling installed by Chandragupta Maurya, and in the new quarters or old quarters. Now coming back to, it is one of the most I would say visited cities by every single scholar, whether it's a Chinese scholar, Greek scholars. It has found references in many Americans' lives. Many American authors have commented on Kashi. Like, it's something about the city. When you go there, you become spiritual, and no other city has that power. I mean, I have visited Vatican, and me being a Hindu, I may be a little bit partial also. But Vatican, I could not feel the vibrations, nothing. It looked like to me like a Rashtrapati Bhavan of India, political office. It had no connection with me as a person. So what is there in Kashi according to you? Because you are a practitioner, as well as you are kind of philosopher and a singer, and I could see in the last show, you're a devotee of Adi Sankaracharya. You can say that. So what is your...
Nobody's called me a singer before, okay, Aditya? Nobody's called me a singer.
So what do you say on that? What is your personal views on Kashi Vishwanath? And then I also want to come to the controversies, and also how the today's Kashi Vishwanath is, we are Hindus are want to get it. So a little bit on touch on that as well. But first, what is your personal realizations about Kashi?
See, when I've gone to Kashi multiple times, okay, and one of the things which I did, which I'm so delighted about, is that without anybody knowing what I planned to do, I'd gone with a group of people, and at around 10 o'clock, I told our taxi driver, I told him, get ready at around 10:30. I just told him I want to go out. And at around 10:30, I took a small pouch. Okay, it had 300 rupees, and it had the Devi Mahatmyam. The Devi Mahatmyam, it's called Durga Sapsati in North India. It's called Devi Mahatmyam in the South. And the belief is that that book is so potent and so holy that nothing negative will touch you if you are carrying it, if it is on you. So I carried the Devi Mahatmyam for protection. I carried some prasad from my Artingal temple, which is, for me, which is one of the most beautiful temples in the world. And I carried Artingal Ambal's prasadam, and I told this driver to drop me at the ghats. He never realized what I was going to do. And he was like, Mem Saab, like he was like, what will you do alone? So I said, I just want to sit there. And it was full moon. And I am telling you, Aditya, that experience is out of the world. You see the full moon on top, you see the moon on the Ganges and on the banks of on this side of the Ganges. Okay, where the side where Kashi Vishwanatha Mandir is, there is my God, the variety of life there is unbelievable. There are beggars who, like, who have got sores on their bodies. There are people who, like, who sit under the umbrellas. There are people sleeping on the boat. There are people taking people out for boat rides at night. It would have been around 11:30. There are sadhus, genuine sadhus. There are fake sadhus who promise to sell you nirvana. They are, first of all, they asked me, how much money do you have in your purse? So I said, I have the Devi Mahatmya. So that shut them up. Okay. I didn't say how much money I have. And then I spent the whole night there. And I'm telling you, it's like, it's like being on spiritual ecstasy, the drug ecstasy, for me personally. The second thing is, when I went to the present Kashi Vishwanatha temple, there is something which struck me then. And I have always maintained that that is something which we have to do. You have the Kashi Vishwanath in his present shrine. Next, when you get out and you do a pradakshina, or you do a circumambulation, on the side of it there is a well. It is called Gyan Vapi, or the well of knowledge. Now, Sadashiva is considered to be one of the first gurus. Shiva, without Shakti, that is without his consort Devi, is found only in two places. Okay. And one is when he is sitting in penance. In South India, they say don't worship a Shiva who's sitting in penance, because when he opens his eyes, fire comes out of his third eye. Fire also stands for knowledge, not just for burning. Fire stands for illumination. Okay, Jwala. And the second time is when he sits as Dakshinamurti. Shiva is, as Dakshinamurti, sits on a pitham, and there are 4 students who are much older. Shiva is a very young man, and he is Dakshinamurti, and he is there is a belief that he taught Ma Saraswati. That is, Saraswati is the goddess of learning in India. But he taught Saraswati, and Saraswati, if Saraswati blesses you, you have the ability not just to know, but to convey your knowledge in a very beautiful way. There's no point in being just a pandit, then it's very dry. Then you can look at some encyclopedia, you can look at whatever it is, but to talk about something, to express something in such a way that people are interested and people want to know, that is with the blessings of Saraswati. Now, so we went around the temple, and the priest there said, inside this Gyan Vapi, there is the original Shivalinga. Okay. Now, we believe that you take a piece of stone, or you take wood, or you take a combination of metals. It can be silver, it can be Panchaloha, which is 5 metals. You take them, you make them into a shape. Okay. That shape is called Pratima. Okay. That which is like something. You make a Pratima. Then you do further pujas, cleansing of the thing. Then it becomes a bimbam. Bimbam is what reflects not just the physical, but the spiritual also. But for an idol in a temple to get congruence with the divine, you have to do more things, and it becomes a vigraha. Okay. Now, it is us human beings who consecrate a vigraha. Okay. And this physical, whatever it is, whether it's a linga, whether it's a statue, it's immaterial. Let's stick to Shiva for the time being. So for this linga to get congruence with the divine, you have to you have to wake him up in the morning, you have to give him a bath, you have to feed him, you have to clothe him, you have to put him to sleep, just like you do for a human being. Okay. Otherwise, the divinity does not need anything. Okay. And so this original Vigraham of Kashi is supposed to, and the potency, by the way, of a Vigraham increases the more the more number of days that these esoteric things are done to it. Okay. So a Vigraham which is 1 day old is far less potent than a Vigraham which is, let us say, 100 years old, and a Vigraham which is 1,000 years old will have more potency. Okay. Because you're adding on the priests are adding on with their karmas, their pujas, and the devotees are adding on to that with their faith. When you go and stand before God with your folded hands, you are giving a part of your energy. You think, you believe that that idol has something to give you, that it blesses you. That's why you go to a temple. According to Hindu philosophy, God is everywhere. You don't need a specific location for God to be present, right? That is very clearly seen in Prahlada's and Narasimha's story, where Narasimha, one of the incarnations of Vishnu, comes out of a pillar because Prahlada's father says, "Where is your Vishnu? You keep on saying Narayana, Narayana. Where is your Narayana?" So he says, he's everywhere. So then Prahlada's father asks, is he here in this pillar? And Prahlada replies, Tunilim Turimbilim Narayana, Kallilim Mullilim Narayana, which means in a pillar, in rust, that is decayed, oxidized iron. Tunilim Turimbilim Narayana, Kallilim Mullilim Narayana. Narayana is there in the stone, as well as what do you call it? In a thorn. And Prahlada's father breaks open the pillar, and Vishnu comes out and kills him. That's the story. Now, Kashi, the original Kashi Vishwanatha Vigraham, which has been thrown in the Gyanvapi, according to the Pandits of the Kashi Vishwanatha temple, has been receiving these kind of worship for a very long time. But for the past nearly maybe 200, 300 years, it's been thrown into the water. This is actually equivalent to somebody picking up a living being and throwing him into the water. Now, if you believe in idols, if you believe in pujas, if you believe in all the pattadis of set worship, if you believe in temples, all of us, every person who claims that he is a believer of Shiva, they have to just open the covering of the Gyanvapi. There's about a nearly 1 foot thick covering in concrete. There's a small opening there, and the priest sits there, and for like depending on how much you pay, being very brutally honest, he gets you water from the well, and he says Shivji is inside this water. You see, this is the water which is covering Shiva. Take it. And so what we have to do, number one, is to retrieve that Shivalinga. This Gyanvapi is within the premises. Please, because for those of you who have not gone to Kashi, I would like to tell you very, very clearly that this Gyanvapi is well within the premises of the present Kashi Vishwanatha temple. And I, for one, with the greatest respect to everybody, I fail to understand why we are taking such a long time to retrieve this Shiva's linga, which is in Gyanvapi. It's a mystery to me.
Some things are not understandable why the delay is there. Now, throughout the world, any community you take, whether it's any Abrahamic community, they work very hard to preserve their history, very hard. Like I give you an
Yes.
example of Vietnam.
Hmm.
Vietnam has banned all the Western interpretations on Vietnamese culture. Now, it's a
Hmm.
small country. It will be
Hmm.
probably one state of India or maybe two
Hmm.
states of India. But uh, they have worked hard. Thailand has worked hard to have their own narration of history. India is the only country where the non Indians tell Indians the history of India. Now, and which is so surprising because we call ourselves Vishwaguru. We tell others all kinds of knowledge and gyan about yoga, meditation. When the world says, hey, you are still using our words, where is your contribution? Now, we can, there are few people like me and you who can talk like that or who are challenging the Western narratives or questioning them, not challenging or questioning, whatever you call them, but at least we are debunking what they said. But most of the Indian official apparatus seems to be very uh, naive and to some extent very uh, not motivated to do these kind of things, which a country like Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, they are doing because they're all part of us. I mean, the country and all those regions are very much think like us. Cambodia. Now, what is the problem which you see here, according to you?
It's actually total, absolute, complete lack of self confidence. We're not sure of what we are. Okay. Now, does this refusal of not taking the original Shivalinga from the Gyanvapi smack of some lack of faith? Is it like if you believe that there has to be a temple and there has to be a idol which represents a deity, and this deity, the older deity, is in the well. When you pause, even forget about stop, when you pause to retrieve that idol, does it not somewhere show that you're not, like, yes, we believe in all this, but then, well, I mean, it's been in the well for such a long time. What does it matter if it is there for 2 years more or 3 years more? It is actually the translation from esoteric terms to practical, physical terms is like, you know, like my friend is in the well. He's been in the well for quite some time. Let him be in the well for, let's see. He survived so long. After all, they're sitting on the Gyanvapi banks and doing the puja. So it's not like he's forgotten. He's managed, and see what has happened to us. What negative thing has happened to us because he's, the original Shiva is in the Gyanvapi. According to me personally, Aditya, this is my take on it. The first thing, the first thing to do is to retrieve that Gyanvapi Shivlinga. You can install him, because this is something which I've, because the first time I heard it, I was totally shocked. Okay, totally shocked, because it didn't make sense for me why it is so. And then, then of course, I went around asking a lot of people, both in North India and in South India, because you already have a Kashi Vishwanatha in the present Kashi Vishwanatha temple. You cannot have two Vishwanathas, right? You cannot throw out the present Kashi Vishwanatha for the sake of the older one. So then I was asking them, how do you manage? What do the Shastras say? What do they prescribe on such a, when, for such a situation? And you know what they said? They said, retrieve the Gyanvapi Shiva, install him on the banks of the well itself. Don't take him into the present Garbhagriha. Consider him to be the Sri Moola Sthana, or the original place. When you start the puja in Kashi Vishwanatha temple, first do it for the Gyanvapi Shivalinga. Then do it for the present Kashi Vishwanatha as we know it. And this is something which everybody should think of, everybody should talk about, and more importantly, everybody should act on. Because it's like you suppressed something good, suppress something good. Now when that suppression, or that that dunking in the well, if I may use those words, is there for the original Kashi Vishwanatha, when that situation is removed, um, you can imagine the blessings which will come on to every believer. And whoever does that um, retrieving of this Shivlinga from the Gyanvapi is going to be blessed, irrespective of who it is. And the more we delay, according to me personally, the more we are getting bound ourselves. For that to change, I think this has to be done. I went to Kashi Vishwanatha temple in 2006 for the first time. At that point, I actually stood there and I cried and I said, Shiva, come out. I was like, you are so powerful. You are Devonka Dev. Why, the God of gods? Why are you pretending, that this huge concrete cover can hold you? Come out. And every time, believe me, Aditya, I've gone to Kashi Vishwanatha. I have stood by the Gyanvapi and said, come out, come out, come out, come out, come out, come out. Please come out. It's one of my dearest wishes that great mistake. Let's not go into historical mistakes, because historical mistakes have been done and dusted. But why are we not in the present rectifying the mistake, which can be easily rectified? There is no controversy in this. It's in our own backyard. You're not hurting the sentiments of anybody. You're not hurting anything. You're not in conflict with anything except our own inertia. This is inertia or fear, our lack of confidence, and let me be brutal and say our lack of faith in the ancient Shivlinga. If we can't take a stand like that, Shiva help all of us. That's all I can say.
You put it very strongly, because I think there is a movement on discussing these things right now. And so one thing comes to my mind, and you put it very wisely also, that how the shivling, it doesn't behold people, millions of people who have faith. And I was reading the statistics of Hinduism. The most popular devata in Hinduism is Shiva, and
Yes.
after that Ganesh, and then Sri
Mm,
Ram. And Krishna is
mm,
obviously very famous in the West. In fact,
mm,
Europeans, when I can tell you my story. When I was in France, I was visiting France for a business meet, and in Paris, there were riots over there, and I was in the middle of the riots. And in between, from an ISKCON local temple, the group of Hare Krishnas were chanting, and the only thing Americans remembered was, those are Hare Krishnas, they will going to save us, that they are Americans. That was the only thing came out.
okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
that's how the brand recognition is there about Krishna, because but still Shiva is the most popular deva. I see tattoos of Shiva on American arm. They may not understand who is it, but it's cool for them to put Shiva on the arms. And so I see that. So another aspect comes to my mind is the literatures. Now we all know there is a whole Puran on Shiva, Shiv Puran, and it's beautiful composition, and it actually glorifies Vishnu. Shiv Puran glorifies Vishnu. People cannot imagine it, but more people will become a devotee of Vishnu by reading Shiv Puran.
True.
So 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 there is no competition between Shiva and this thing. And also we also recognize that Vishnu is the sattva guna, is a devta of sattva guna. Brahma is the deva of rajas guna, and Shiva is a deva of tamas guna, according to Shastra. But coming to your point, which literatures glorify Kashi Vishnath, according to you? Last time you said there is a Rudra Chamakam also there, and people love it.
Yeah.
And there are many groups in California. I can see they are Rudra fanatics. Like I call them Rudra fanatics because they only believe in
Good.
Rudra, Rudra
Ha.
Chamakam.
Ha.
And most of the
Ha.
places in US cities, you'll find Shiva Vishnu Mandir. You'll not find Shiva Ganesh, no, Shiva Vishnu Mandir. So,
Mm.
what literatures which come from Varanasi, which actually glorify the history of Kashi Vishwanath, if you know any of them?
See, I'll tell you one thing. There are so many. There's a beautiful story, Aditya. There is a beautiful, beautiful story. There was a Muslim poet who fell in love with a Hindu Devdasi. Now, please understand one thing. It is a corruption of the West that Devdasi is equated to a prostitute or a concubine. Devdasi comes from the root of Div. Div means to give pleasure. Okay? And Devdasis were actually women who were highly educated. The 64 kalas, the 64 arts they had to know. They were they were part um of the courts of ancient kings because the kings used to consult them as experts. The wives used to be for the bloodline, purity of family, big family, so and so, so and so, so and so. But the Devdasis were very much part of the political system. Now there is a story that there is this poet who fell in love with this Muslim poet who fell in love with this Hindu Devdasi, and they used to meet on the banks of the Ganga in Varanasi. As recently as I would say maybe about this was Kishan Maharaj, the tabla player who told me this. He told me personally that when he was a kid, he used to learn the rhythms by beating on the steps, on the stone steps of Ganga. He used to do his riyas, his practice like that. And the musicians were on one side. They would sing, they would compose and sing impromptu. And on the other side, there used to be the Devdasis. And what he was saying is 90% of the time, it was the Devdasis who used to beat these pandits of music. It was so, and the way he spoke about them was with the deep respect that he would for a guru. The tragedy which has happened to India is that we have pushed it all under, Devdasi is equivalent to sex. Tantra is equivalent to sex. First of all, we made sex something bad. And then we put all these valuable things under that label. And I will tell you one thing: creation, sex, birth, death, living, it is all one cycle. Nowhere in India is this is special, this is special. It is all part of life. It's one cycle. You're born, you live, and you die. And according to Hindu belief, you're reborn and you live and you die. And this circle, this circular wave, if I may put it, because it's a progression. Um, happens till you reach salvation or moksha. So anyway, to come back to this, there was no way that this poet and this lady could be together. So he sings a praise shloka to Ganga, and there were 81 steps, and as he sang each shloka, the water rose on one step. He was sitting on one corner of the steps. She was sitting on the other corner of the steps. And then the water, when he sang the second sloka, it climbed to the second step, and so on and so forth, until finally when he reached the, because he couldn't, he and she had decided that they wouldn't live without each other. And when his sloka reached the 81st step, Ganga washed both of them away. And it's such a romantic story. It's such a beautiful story. And if you just sit there on the banks of Ganga, especially Ganga in Varanasi, and of course Ganga as she comes down the mountains, there is such a rhythm in her, in such a rhythm in her flow. You watch her in summer, it is in its one rhythm. You watch her in the rainy season, and you have to be very careful, because the Ganga in the rainy season is like the original Ganga who landed on Shiva's head. She's wild, okay. She's wilder than the ocean. And somebody, I think, I can't remember if it is Tagore who has written Tolo Molo, the waves of the Ganga are like, you know, and there is such rhythm in that. You have that. And you know, Tulsidas, Tulsidas was very much part of that milieu. Tulsidas is of course Ram, you see. And there are so many stories. And about Shiva, the literature about Shiva is like, you can't, it's huge. It's, like Rudram and Chamakam are just two tiny bits of methodology of worship. Okay, you have the Shivananda Lahari. Shivananda Lahari is so, my God, you listen to that, you actually, there's one thing which about Shiva which I've seen, even in day-to-day life, kids who are, even kids who use narcotics, they say we use narcotics because Shiva takes bhang. Shiva's intoxicated many times. But Shiva is one God who does not look for approval from any other source. Shiva as a tapasvi. Now you can wonder that who's this great God, who's the greatest of God, meditating on. He has to meditate on something, right? When Shiva is doing tapasya, he meditates on Vishnu. And Vishnu does puja to Shiva. Shiva pujana patmahasta, with the lotus hand, which does puja to Shiva. And in this place called Rameshwaram, there's one very interesting anecdote, or one very interesting belief, that you go to Kashi, and then normally you go to Kashi, to Vishwanatha temple. You also go to the Triveni, where Ganga, Yamuna, and the Antarvahini, the Saraswati, which is the underground river, meet. In fact, you have to go a little bit into the water, because I believe Saraswati's water reaches only there. She does not reach the banks, and you're supposed to take water from there, and you have to go to Rameshwaram, and you have to pour the water, do Abhisheka to Shiva there in Rameshwaram. You have to carry the water from this place, from the north of India, or well, the middle of India, to Tamil Nadu. And it's this linkage, which unfortunately we are losing. We are losing track of it. You just mentioned about physically mapping, the Ramayana, physically, geographically mapping. Now, earlier, if you had to go to Kailas Mansarovar, you had to start from Kanyakumari, which is the Mooladhara, or the basis of the Kundalini, the basis. Okay, you have to go from the Mooladhara and rise up the Kundalini to the Sahasrara. In the Mooladhara, she is Kundalini is Shakti, and she is looking for union with Shiva. And Shiva is pictured as a Adhomukha lotus, or a lotus which is inverted on top. The 1,000-petaled lotus, which is the crown of the head. You find exact the same, exactly, ditto. You find the same thing, which is considered to be chi energy. Okay. In Japan and China, Kundalini energy is called chi. Chi, ki, and that means 8. The 8. We call it the 7 because, once you reach there, once Shakti joins with Shiva, that's it. Then they don't have to stay in a human body. If you look at the great sages who have passed on, you will find that they go into samadhi. Samadhi means, sama means equal, dhi means brain. So when everything is equal, that is samadhi. That is salvation. And when they achieve salvation, they're very aware that you're going to, they have reached salvation because they're so aware, right? Then they sit in the lotus position and they close their eyes, they control their breath, and breath is supposed to get out of the crown of the head. That is samadhi. It breaks, the crown breaks, the Brahmarandram. Some people say that the Brahmarandram opens for a woman when she gives birth. And the Brahmarandram opens again when it is time for a person to go into a death, which is a very aware, it's a high quality type of death. And unfortunately, of course, there are lots of so-called swamis nowadays who die and their students hit them on the head to break it and say, oh, yes, achieve samadhi. I shall not go into the names, but I know of this case myself. See?
So very well explained, very well put it, and quite detailed. So definitely one thing is sure that Kashi Vishwanath is of very high importance, the temple, for Hindu faith. And I'm talking about Hindus from all countries, American Hindus, South American Hindus. Hindus are not just limited from India. Hindus are from Pakistan, Bangladesh, even though Bangladesh, Pakistan have not respected Hindus, their native Hindus, but most of the history knows that the Hindus were there. And so Kashi Vishwanath is a symbol of faith for millions, billions, I would say, across the world. And there are a lot of closet Hindus in Japan. There are a lot of closet Hindus in China. I won't name them with cities, but there are a lot of Hindus in China also. So their Hindus are not just limited to South Asia, and Kashi Vishwanath is a direct faith symbol for them. And not to least to mention, forgot to mention that more than 50 million Americans go to yoga studios or more. This is just a rough estimate. It's the lowest calculating that how many yoga teachers are there. More than a million yoga teachers in North America, in USA, we are talking about. And there are more than 600,000 yoga studios running in the US today. So if you just roughly calculate 100 students per yoga studio, you're looking at a very big number.
True.
And and the god of yoga is the Adi Yogi, which is Shiva.
Yes.
And his
Yes.
temple is Kashi Vishwanath. So
Yes.
I would request all the global audience, all the students who are watching this show to join this movement and get the Kashi Vishwanath established again. Today was just a precursor of one show and beginning with none other than Lakshmi Bayi Nalapat ji. So none other than her to start. So it is an appeal from the princess also to save Kashi Vishwanath and
Not
re-establish
from a princess, but from a Shiva Bhakt, somebody who's mad about Shiva.
both.
Because with Shiva, you cannot have a formal relationship. You have to be totally mad.
Both, right? Bhakt
Ha.
as well as princess. So, but
Well,
anyway, it is an appeal, and please join this movement and get it done. So, would you like to say something to the audience then?
see, there is you were talking about literature. There is a shloka which about Kashi Vishwanath, which starts Ganga Tunga Taranga Ramaniya Jada Kalapam Gauri Nirandara Vishobhida Vama Bhagam, which is like, he who's got Ganga flowing as a taranga from his jada, and half of it's always Gauri, and it goes on like that, and it says Varanasi Purapade Bhaja Vishwanatham. Okay, that is you who live in Varanasi. I am worshipping Vishwanath. I have two humble requests to all of you. First is please, 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 please get the Kashi Vishwanatha's original Vigraham from the Gyanvapi, which is within the premises of the existing Kashi Vishwanatha temple. It does not even touch the boundaries. It is well within the temple complex. It is ours. So if we do not take it out, it is nobody else's fault except ours. And as Shiva, as the Guru, I have only one request to all of you. Let us be wise in whatever decision we do. Let us not do things for the sake of doing it. Let us do things step by step, logical step by step. Let us first get Kashi Vishwanatha and reinstate him and restart worship to him within the premises of the Kashi Vishwanatha temple, which is allowed shastrically. Let us do that, and let that be our step. And like I said, Shiva, let him shower us with Mangala or auspiciousness. Om Namah Shivaya.
Thank you
Namaste.
so much. And thank you all the viewers for watching, and do comment on the show and let me know your feedback. Namaste, Lakshmi.
Namaste. Thank you.